everyone, welcome to We Love Soaps TV. I'm Roger Newcomb.
And I'm Damon Jacobs, author of Absolutely Should List, The Secret to Living the Stress-Free Life You Deserve, available at Amazon. And we are sitting here with Chris Eades. How are you, Chris?
I've been better.
Yeah, me too. So we're filming this on the day that the news came down about As the World Turns, and we're going to talk all about that today on this episode with you. First, though, I just want to get to know a little bit more about you and about your work and who you are and why you're sitting here. Who are you? What are you doing here?
I have been working for Soaps in Depth magazine for the past 10 years covering As the World Turns. So this news hits especially hard.
I'll bet. Now,
because at our magazine we have one editor per show.
Mhm.
So that one editor focuses on that show and learns the history of that show and knows all the actors on that show.
So you've been covering As the World Turns, watching the stories, getting to know the actors, kind of being part of the whole family of the show in a way, doing these interviews, and now we learned today that that's going to be coming to an end.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, before we talk about that, did you were you a fan of As the World Turns before you started covering it?
Okay. Full disclosure time.
Full disclosure time.
No. I had been watching Guiding Light.
Okay.
I was a fan of Guiding Light up until I got the job at the magazine, and they said, well, if you're hired, you'll be covering As the World Turns. And I said, that's fine. And immediately went home and started watching As the World Turns every day, just in case I got the job, which I then did.
This was 1999?
Yeah, it was like, because I started in January of 2000, so.
Okay, so Another World had been off the air 6 months, and Chris Galtman had been at As the World Turns about 6 months. So you've watched the entire Chris Galtman run as executive producer.
Right, from the very beginning of it. Right. So that was around the time, I remember 1999 being the year of Carly's, the year she was pregnant with Parker, and he was called the $1 Million Baby.
Yes, I came in just after that.
He was born like January 1999.
Right.
So
it was the whole thing, like she had to have a baby by.
Yep.
And she had 3 husbands.
Anyone but Mike.
Right.
I started right with the Alec Wallace murder mystery with Margot waking up in bed next to his corpse and thinking she'd done it.
Oh,
there was something with a plant. It was very crucial to the mystery, and I don't remember why.
How did you first start getting involved with watching soaps? Was it a mother, a grandmother, a relative, or just...
You know, I have such a bad memory that I don't even know how I got started. I don't know if it was my mother who got me started, but I remember as a child watching General Hospital in the heyday of Luke and Laura. Like, I remember the campus disco. I'm totally dating myself. But, you know, like, that's what I started watching was General Hospital and whatever. And then I kind of phased out of General Hospital, and I watched Santa Barbara from first episode to last, and then moved to Guiding Light. But I've never not had a soap opera in my life. I've always watched something.
And why is that? I mean, what do soap operas give to you? What do they bring into your life?
I don't know. It's strange. It's like, I just like being able to take an hour out of my day and watch other people have problems that are clearly much worse than mine, because I don't have evil twins that I know of. And it's like a little escape, but then that you can sort of relate to. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's the escape element, but then there's also the characters that you can relate to and feel for, and you get caught up in the continuing drama of their lives. And I don't know, it's always been something that I've been watching, so I don't feel right if I'm not watching something where every day I watch someone's life go on.
I understand that. You know, I really believe that soap operas you know, we were saying how they provide a certain level of stability and comfort in a world that is anything but stable and anything but comfortable a lot of the times. And when we're going through major changes in our lives, when I've gone through major changes in my life, it's always comforting to have these people there. And I think, you know, again, getting back to As the World Turns and what that has provided viewers for over 50 years, it's just such a profound loss. I mean, I'm kind of still in shock about this because I was working. I actually worked today, so I'm just sort of letting it absorb now. What over the last 10 years can you say? What stories appealed to you the most, or what did you like most about the show over the past 10 years you've been covering it?
God, you know, and it's so amazing to think, like, a full decade that I've been, you know, watching the show and covering it and being kind of part of it. like, just the sheer amount of stories that they have told over that 10-year period, you know, to try to think back and be like, oh, well, there was that one. It's funny because you were saying, you know, when you have, you know, drama in your own life and to see their drama, that actually reminded me of, you know, when they did the story with Bob having his stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a grandparent who had a stroke, and it was, you know, extremely similar. And, you know, seeing that portrayed on screen, you know, it brings up all those memories, whatever. As far as favorite storylines, I have to say Luke coming out was groundbreaking and terrific and really well done in the beginning. And then
In the beginning.
yeah, and then I also think that you know, Hogan Sheffer had quite a few wonderfully weird storylines. The spa storyline was hilariously campy, great, very clever way to get rid of your pregnant actresses.
Yeah.
And it started with Barbara blowing up in the boathouse, and from that
was
moment,
so
Barbara
good.
started flipping out and going nuts with her face, and that was just a great run of the show, like a couple of years.
We used to call her Crispy Barbara. And then I found out that the makeup artist, I told the makeup artist at As the World Turns that we nicknamed her Crispy Barbara. And he's like, oh, we called her Barbecue.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's even better.
That's bad.
But then there's like the storylines, you know, just, you know, Simon and Katie,
Yeah.
you know, and then, you know, Rose. I loved Rose. Oh, that was just a waste of a character. Honestly, and I know this is terrible to say, but at the time when Martha was like, I can't keep doing two characters, it's like, can't you send Lily somewhere? Rose was so much more fun.
You know, hearing you talk about the Hogan Sheffer times, like, and there were some clunkers, like
Oh,
Bonnie
yeah.
in Scotland, and some bad stories, but
Poor Billy.
like Rose, the spa thing, it's not things I would necessarily think As the World Turns would do.
No.
But it worked really well. And they're kind of larger than life characters. And even Katie and Simon's fantasy or relationship and her wedding, her dream wedding was to be in a church, and it has snow falling in there and there's animals, and it all came true, and it was so romantic and sweet. And that's what I think has really been missing, like some of the larger than life entertainers
see-
and romance.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I feel that they've been getting back to, especially with the Brad Ghost storyline, where, like, yes, there's comedy, and it is a little ridiculous at times because Henry is involved, and there's the comedy of that stuff, but just having, like, you know, the moments where he can't touch her, and he wants to, and, like, he's looking at his son, and he can't, you know, and it's so sad, and there's real emotion and drama in that, even with that fantasy element, you know.
I gotta say, I think the story's going on a little long, but there was such a poignant emotional moment where I got kind of the point of the story, which is when Brad sees Simon touching his toolbox. And he said, he touched my tools! And the way he said it, there was just something that clicked. It's like, okay, that's what this story is kind of about. It's about Brad's longing, it's about his pain, it's about Katie's pain, and wherever it is they're going with that. But
And I will tell you, like, it's sometimes ridiculous, but sometimes really good.
yeah.
And that's what they need to do, you know, is
So-
merge the fantasy with reality.
So getting to today, and,
Yeah.
and some I think the pain that I'm feeling too is that the show has been so much better in recent months. For me, the last 3 months have been don't miss a day.
Yeah.
Not because of these constant plot things that they were doing, but because the stories they've been telling and the way they've been telling them have been so much, the structure has
Mhm.
been so much more solid, and the characters have been so much more solid.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel like certain things are going a little too quickly, but that's what kills me the most about this is that As the World Turns tried to right the ship by doing what it should do, which is to tell good stories. The problem is that telling good stories will increase your ratings, but it takes a really long time to see those results because word of mouth has to spread. You know, you're not going to get the instant ratings boost that you would get from, you know, a location or a stunt casting or something. So that's what hurts me the most is that, you know, we just lost Guiding Light earlier this year, and now they've just announced As the World Turns, and it's so sad to see this happening. And especially when As the World Turns, I felt like it was doing the right thing, and it was telling really good stories, and it was a really solid show. And to suffer this fate is just there's no justice in the world.
It seems really unfair. I think it really seems unfair for those who love the show and for those who love the soap genre, that went through this. We just went through this loss with Guiding Light. And as Roger posted on our website at welovesoaps.net, we got to wonder how planned this was earlier this year, when on April 1st, when Guiding Light was announced to be canceled. You know, I'm wondering, you're wondering, a lot of people are kind of asking these questions like, was this already in the works? Was this already done?
In my mind, if you were really giving As the World Turns a chance, because creatively it's gotten better, as we said, you would have given them a few more months. I mean, if it really can stay on the air until September 2010, then why not wait till February and see if the ratings do anything? Like, it seems like this was a done deal, and they just, I think this was planned for a long time. Despite the improvements and changes, I think that CBS was never going to have, I think it was going to be $1,000 pyramid or some bad game show, no matter what.
What do you think about that?
Well, there's a part of me that would like to hope that they announced it so early, as opposed to Guiding Light, where they waited until April to announce that it would be ending in September. Here they've announced in December, and there's a part of me that's hoping that it was done so early because there was that rumor that Lifetime was interested in Guiding Light, but they didn't have enough time because by the time it was announced, they'd already finalized their fall schedule. So I'm hoping that maybe they announced it earlier in the hopes that maybe they could find another outlet for it. But I honestly, in my heart of hearts, don't see that as being likely. And I know that there is some kind of mentality in the business world where you're supposed to fire people or give them bad news before the Christmas holidays.
Yeah.
And I don't remember why that is. It's some psychological reason why people won't get as upset, which I don't understand because I feel like you've just ruined Christmas. I'm really upset, you know?
I was going to ask you
So
about that too, and ask you, Roger, too. There seems something very, to me, seems kind of almost cruel about announcing it this close to the holidays for people that are going to be so upset about the show.
As opposed to announcing Guiding Light on April Fool's Day, where people weren't even sure whether they were serious at first.
That was ridiculous. But, you know, Christmas time is something that's, and the holidays are very important to many, many people. And to get really, I mean, for a lot of people, this is really seriously bad news, and certainly for everybody who works on the show and all of their families. This is horrible news. Why? Especially if the show's going to go on till September. Why wouldn't they have waited till after the new year to make this announcement? I'm a little confused about that.
I don't know.
It seems like if you really needed, if you really were being magnanimous and you wanted to give P&G time to shop the show around, you could have let them know. It didn't have to be a public thing that says this is, you know what I mean? It didn't have to be announced to the world. They could still know. They could shop. I guess maybe to shop the show around, you have to make it public, but
It would get out.
I don't know. I'm not happy. I wouldn't have been happy anytime. I don't think it matters that it's before Christmas, really. I think it just matters to me that I think the show did try to improve, but it really went off the rails, and they waited too late. It was kind of like Guiding Light. They went to a new production model. They weren't really prepared to do that, but they were sort of forced into it. They didn't really have a choice based on budget. It took a whole year to master it or get better, and then the show gets canceled. I think As the World Turns, they've had the same executive producer. They've had basically the same production model. Why did they go to episodic storytelling? Why did they completely change? Why did he say nobody wants to watch more than 2 days a week in interviews? Like,
You're talking about Gelman.
Chris Gelman. I mean, it seemed like, from my perspective, he kind of lost interest in the show a little bit over time, and some of his interviews were kind of anti-fan. And then lately, he's done interviews. He's gone out of his way to publicize, like, I really care about the show. They've done a campaign, Every Day Counts, which is in complete contrast to nobody wants to watch more than 2 days a week. So it's like they've gone out of their way to kind of counteract that, but it seems like it's way too late.
I like to look on the bright side and think that those moves that Goutman made were an attempt to, boost the ratings and see if that was something that might work in the daytime medium. And then when it did not, and the fans did not respond well to the episodic, fast-paced storytelling, he said, okay, back to basics it is then.
But Chris, I gotta wonder, I mean, how long would it have taken to figure out that wasn't working? I mean, we're talking about several years that they adopted this episodic, fast-paced, can't miss it. I mean, and he gave that interview that you mentioned that he referred to, like, I don't think the fans, this is not a direct quote, but it's almost like, he said the fans really don't have the patience to watch a show 5 days a week. That was like
that quote.
3 years ago, right?
Was it that long ago? Wow.
It was like a
It
couple
was
years
a
ago.
while. It was a while ago. It was enough time to figure out that what they were doing wasn't working.
I don't think that was like a new concept, that not every soap fan watches 5 days a week. I just felt like the way it was said was kind of like a defeatist attitude. Like we don't have a chance. Like there's nothing we can do.
Well, it feels like there was a lot of apathy behind it. Again, I don't know this for a fact. I'm just saying my perception as, you know, a viewer and someone who's writes about the shows. It felt like behind the scenes there was a general apathy in terms of these interviews, in terms of the way the stories were being told, until recently. I mean, it really feels like people started caring. I felt like there was a lot more caring behind the scenes this past summer, and that was really showing.
It seems like they're moving Carly and Jack back together. The Carly and Jack fans have been very, very vocal forever. I mean, it's like suddenly a switch flipped and said, okay, let's put Carly and Jack back together. Like, what were you trying to do, torture them for 5 years and then put them back together, like suddenly? Because I mean, I thought Jack and Janet actually built a pretty decent relationship,
Yeah.
but like a lot of things in As the World Turns, it's like, okay, somebody flipped a switch. We're going to end Holden and Carly. We're going to end Casey and Emily. We're going to put Carly and Jack back together. And then all the story kind of goes a completely different direction than it's been going. And so somebody just made that decision, and it's obvious. And Chris and I were in Greenville, South Carolina together for the Never Surrender tour. We saw some good Jack and Carly stuff, or actually we didn't see them together, but we saw them coming back together. And it's just been obvious in the storytelling that's the direction it's going, and Janet's going to be out of the picture at some point.
So what, if anything, do you think could have been done differently now in retrospect, knowing what we know now today? What could have been done differently to keep it on the air?
I don't even know. I'm not even sure that anything would have worked, because as you were saying that about bringing Jack and Carly back together and listening to the fans, it started me thinking, if you want to be a real big conspiracy theorist, like maybe these changes that have been happening are because Goutman knew, and he wanted to start positioning people so that they can have those happy endings for the popular couples, you know, next year. I don't really know, because like I said, the only way to save the show would be to, you know, you have to bring the ratings up, and the best way to do that is to just make a good, solid soap opera. And unfortunately, I don't feel like CBS was willing to wait another year. I thought maybe they would, being that we just lost Guiding Light. I thought that would buy As the World Turns at least a 1-year renewal, because they didn't want to kill 2 shows in 1 year. But I was wrong. And
it seems like production costs are so high for these shows. I just wonder if any of the current shows can last more than a couple more years, because it just costs so much to produce them. In order to slash the cost dramatically with the ratings kind of sinking, you have to go to a production model like Guiding Lights or even more, and fans kind of rejected that. So what are you going to do? And there's a natural erosion of broadcast television viewing. I think I said before, if Dallas was on today, it wouldn't be getting a 40 share, it'd be getting like a 15 share. There's just too many other options. The biggest hits, the #1 show is like NCIS with 20 million viewers. Desperate Housewives had a really great number of 14 million this week for their plane crash episode.
Right.
But when it debuted only like 5 years ago, they had 20+ million viewers. Like there's a natural erosion, and what's considered good has gone down. And I think As the World Turns would have lost a certain number of viewers even if it had stayed consistently good.
But I think creatively, I guess I take issue with some of the decisions that were made and the way the stories were told. You know, I think you got to look at what is consistently doing well relative to what we're saying well is right now. Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, Days of Our Lives are consistently in the top 3 of the Nielsen ratings. Now, we could also question how accurate these Nielsen ratings are, and I do question that.
Yeah.
But let's just go for a second and just say that they're whatever it is they are. I don't think it's a coincidence that you've got 3 shows that are really focused on telling stories about their veteran characters year after year without abrupt shifts. Now, Days of Our Lives has had ups and downs, and I don't exactly know how it's defied all the odds, but Young, the Restless, and Bold and the Beautiful have consistently, I'm not always loving what they do, but what they do consistently with their veteran stories, characters over 40, over 50, engaged in really great stories. You know, and As the World Turns, we're lucky if Bob and Kim, you know, they got a stroke story, you know, very briefly, and I loved it. I loved what they did. And then they disappeared.
It didn't even come for Thanksgiving.
I know.
Well,
Lisa, where was Lisa for that?
I complained in our audio cast about Nancy. Like, Nancy makes her second appearance in a year and a half, and it's like, again, like this entire decade, a scene with Katie talking about Katie's love life, versus a really poignant scene with Bob, a poignant scene with Katie, a poignant scene with Tom, anybody in her family. And it's such a waste to me that you do that. So to me, I agree with you. They didn't use the veteran actors that people that watch As the World Turns wanted to see or are familiar with. The other thing is, when they actually did strike lightning in a bottle with Luke and Noah, instead of running with it and trying to really capitalize on so many new fans that sampled the show, they basically put them on the back burner, started airing them once a week for the next couple of years, and never really took advantage of it till so many of those people either lost interest or gave up hope that they were ever going to show them. Then they banned kissing for 7 months. But I mean, it's rare for a soap these days, especially As the World Turns. It skews very older, to strike a chord with younger viewers and to have potential people checking it, new people checking it out, and they really squandered it.
They did. They did. I mean, I talked to them. I was at the True Colors event with Van Hansis a couple weeks ago, and a lot of the Nuke fans were there. And because they'll support anything, But a lot of them aren't really watching the show anymore, or they're not watching consistently like they were a year ago at this time, because they don't really feel it anymore.
And also, I feel like a lot of the fans, because like you say, the numbers are going down and broadcast TV is, dwindling, I feel like the alternative media, like a lot of the fans now, like when they realized that Luke and Noah weren't going to be on but like once every week or two, they'd go on a message board and see, oh, they were on today, and they would go on the website and watch it, or they'd go on YouTube and just watch somebody would sit there and edit together all the Luke and Noah scenes, so you can just go to YouTube and watch the Luke and Noah scenes, which does not translate into ratings, unfortunately.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people say they discovered Luke and Noah through YouTube, which was great. And I've heard a lot of them say they checked out the whole show and they actually started liking the whole show. But then even new fans that had never watched soaps before didn't really like the episodic storytelling. Like it's not what daytime soaps are all about. And a lot of them gave up. And anyway, it was a squandered opportunity. I think not showing people. I've talked about my mom before. If she watches As the World Turns and she doesn't see Bob or Kim or Lisa, she doesn't think it's As the World Turns, so she's not really interested. And so you either have to take advantage of the hot young couple that you have, or show the people the fans care about, and they kind of did neither.
Although I do have to say that I had already had the thought before I read your post about how it should end. And I had already had that thought, and I said, well, clearly the ending
Don't steal my idea.
of As the World Turns needs to be like Nancy, laying in her bed, getting ready to go to sleep, saying goodnight to Bob and Kim, and then looking up at the heavens and saying goodnight, dear, and shutting out the light.
It's perfect. I mean, Helen Wagner said "Good morning, dear" is the first words ever spoken in As the World Turns. No other dramatic series will ever last this long, for one, and they will never have the same actors playing the same role for 54 years, and they'll never have the opportunity to have an amazing ending like this. And if I see Nutmeg running around doing something on the final episode and no Nancy Hughes, I will do something really terrible in Brooklyn.
Well, maybe it'll be like everybody will go to a softball game, and at the end, and maybe Nutmeg will run off with the gorilla, and then we can just combine the worst of all soap endings
James
ever.
Brown. James Brown.
If Nancy's singing "Get Up Off That Thing" at the end, I'm going to be really upset.
I want to refer, because I want to make sure people watching this realize to what you're talking about. Yes, Guiding Light was the longest show on the air. However, Helen Wagner has the Guinness Book of World Records of the longest role ever. That she has been playing this role consistently, I think with the exception of maybe 10 months at one point, right?
She was off contract for a few years, but she was still appearing.
In the 80s, like since 1956.
The longest running contract person is Don Hastings, actually.
Yeah.
But the thing about Guiding Light, and obviously it was sad, and we talked a lot about that, the longest running actor on the show, or the person that started the earliest, was like Maeve Kincaid, Robert Newman, Tina Sloan, Kim Zimmer, people that started around 1980 and after.
They were the veterans.
They didn't have, Sharita Bauer wasn't still alive, they didn't have these people. As the World Turns, next year, 2010, Don Hastings and Eileen Fulton will celebrate 50 years since they debuted on the show. Helen Wagner will be on for 54 years. It's just unbelievable. So bring back John Dixon, bring back Ellen Lowell Stewart, and focus on these people. Why not? What's it going to hurt?
That's the one bright glimmer that's like, oh well, maybe they'll do what Guiding Light did, and they'll bring back some popular favorite characters. I
want a Lisa romance. I want John Dixon. You're not trying to raise the ratings, so doing 2-month guest stars of General Hospital stars means nothing now. If you have any respect for this show at all, you will send it out the way it went in, with class.
If there's respect for the show. Do you think there is?
I do.
Okay.
I think there is. I think everyone involved in the production of As the World Turns wants to make the best show possible. I just think that, you know, there's a lot of cooks stirring that. I mean, this is true of any daytime soap. There are a lot of cooks stirring every pot. And, you know, the actor wants to do their best job, but sometimes their dialogue isn't the best. And then, you know, the storyline isn't their favorite, but they make it work because they want to do their best job and they want the show to be as good as possible for the fans. And, you know, everybody's trying.
If there's any question about how to pay tribute to a soap opera, especially As the World Turns, doing homages to canceled sitcoms is not it. That's not how you pay tribute to your show, by doing spoofs of old sitcoms. It really isn't. On the 50th anniversary, they had a whole special episode dedicated to.
Oh, you don't remember that one?
Laverne and Shirley.
Oh,
there was a Laverne and Shirley
see.
spoof, a Munster spoof, Happy Days. I'm like, what does this have to do with paying tribute to 50 years on television?
Yes.
Please don't do it again. Please.
Wasn't there a gorilla involved in that one too?
Well, they also had another episode which was much better, dedicated to
It was a bear.
Nancy received.
A bear, sorry.
It was a real. It was a real bear,
just-
though. It was a real.
It
bear.
was.
It wasn't a fake bear.
Yes.
Can we just like not have any more bears or gorillas on soap?
No, this was a real bear.
It was an actual bear. Colleen's like,
I don't
told me how
care.
she fed it
I'm still
marshmallows.
not
This was an
It
actor.
scary.
This is
I
a
don't
professional
care.
acting bear.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't.
He was
want
a better
kids
actor
bears.
than some of the cast.
All right.
But that was fine. I
You're
didn't
gonna have
mind
a bear on the
because you had all those veteran actresses talking about their history and their shared history.
That was
and
a
the
tribute.
characters.
That was somewhat of a
That
tribute.
was history, and that was a good tribute.
If you're gonna bring back bears on daytime television, bring back Drake Hogestyn. The rest I don't care about. Now, getting back to, we were talking about new media, and you know, I listened to what you were saying about YouTube and the phenomenon of YouTube and the Nuke taking off on YouTube, and a lot of people watching you solely the Nuke scenes on YouTube.
Mhm.
Now, again, I'm just wondering, and what your take is as far as how that impacts the Nielsen ratings. Because a lot of those people who watch the Nuke scenes on YouTube never would have been counted as Nielsen people anyway. However, when they watch YouTube, their viewing is counted.
Yes, but CBS doesn't care about how many hits a Luke and Noah kissing video gets.
Why not?
But are
What's
you?
wrong with this picture?
But you watch every day on TV, but you're not a part of the Nielsen sample either, so you don't count either, and neither do I, neither do you.
Well, I'm an
And you
old
can't
gay guy.
tell
They
me
don't
that-
care about me.
They-
I'm not in the demographic they would care about.
You can't tell me that they can't easily spy on all of our DVR boxes anyway.
I know.
You know, I mean, just if that would have saved the show, I would totally let them spy on my DVR cable box. I would totally give Time Warner
There's
permission
probably some
to
privacy concerns or something. But
know exactly what shows I was watching, so that maybe I could save some shows.
there's no way the technology isn't there to know exactly what we're
Right.
watching. There's no way.
Right.
There's probably an invasion of privacy.
Oh, a
issue.
total invasion of
But
privacy.
ask me. You can know what I'm
But I
watching.
would
don't
give them
care.
permission. I'm telling you, I would say, Time Warner Cable, you have my permission to tell all of the networks that I am watching these shows.
Versus
Please
being
don't cancel
selected by
them.
Nielsen to be part of their tiny little sample and having that determine all of the stuff.
It doesn't make sense, and it's so weird that we're
It hasn't
talking
worked for years.
Well, and we're talking about this now in a week where there is so much changing, and what I'm talking about is the introduction of Venice
Yes.
to the internet. Not only the beginning of Venice, but they're trying out of this new model of charging to watch the show. Which for me, some people apparently knew that. For me, that came out of left field. I didn't know they were gonna
actually
do that.
did not know that they were. I had not.
Thank you.
been-
I didn't know either.
I was like, wait, they're charging? I
didn't
knew
know
it was
that.
a possibility, but I didn't know it had been decided officially.
Well, I think people who were really following it, they did a poll on the website. Crystal kind of talked about it on tweets, but I think people who were really following it really, really closely, but I think the average soap fan never expected to pay. And I think people that were like maybe Italia fans or people really following it kind of had an inkling.
But the thing is that if you're going to create a web soap, there's no money in it. You know, like, it's a whole new world, and people are still trying to figure out how to make it work as a business model. And, you know, like Martha Burns Gotham, you know, she told me she's just doing it, like, to start and, like, hopefully bring in, and hopefully she can prove that this is a viable medium, and then the sponsors might be attracted to that and come in to try to get the viewers. Crystal's got the only way to actually make money off of this is by charging for a subscription fee.
Well, she did sell. I mean, the Italia fan base is very loyal, and kind of like the Nuke fan base.
Mhm.
The Nuke fan base was willing to put their money where their mouth is, and they've traveled all over the world to come here for like the luncheon and different things. And there was a Nuke event in Paris, France.
And rock the soap cruise. They do that.
They bought merchandise. They've donated thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to charity. They put their money where their mouth is, and they were willing to buy DVDs or buy new merchandise or do anything, and the show never wanted to do that. The Italia fans are very, very passionate like that. When they opened up what's called the V Shop, the Venice store, they bought thousands of dollars worth of merchandise, and supposedly that financed the first season, was all from those purchases.
Really?
So now they're going to be making more money. Maybe this will go to season 2. I mean, I thought the production looked pretty good. I thought there was a few sound issues, but I thought it was pretty good. So if they could produce this with what they had, and now they make money off the subscriptions, the production could be even better. You could have more crew, better editors, whatever it is. You know, it's one model. I just think, though, it's going to limit the casual soap fan that isn't like an Italia diehard from watching it.
And also, like, you know, you want to have like the sampling so they can check it out, and then, you know, I mean, it's just one episode, and now I have to pay $10 to see the next one. And to be fair, I liked it. It was very good, but there was no cliffhanger that made me say, ooh, what's going to happen next? I want to buy $10 to find out what happens next.
I'm curious to see how it works, because the website was down at 11 p.m. on Friday night when it premiered.
Was that
I went to
a technical glitch, or was that because everyone went there and it crashed?
I'm not sure. It was down before.
Okay.
The thing is, if you're going to stream media on your own website versus uploading it to YouTube, it takes a lot of bandwidth. So you're going to have to, it's going to cost a lot just to maintain that website. And then, as you see, every day on CBS.com, they post the CBS Soaps. Within an hour, somebody has taken the CBS clip from YouTube and put it onto, from CBS.com and put it onto YouTube. And I know it because it has this, it's not the TV closing credits, it's the CBS.com closing credits, which are different. Yeah. So it's easy to rip videos and put them onto YouTube. So is somebody going to do that to Venice in the first segment?
That's the other thing, is that, when you're dealing with digital media like this,
it's hard to not have people pirate it.
Yeah, piracy is going to be an issue, I think, with Venice. We'll see.
Does CBS, or do they get any credit, or do they make any money when someone goes to CBS.com and they sit down and they watch their episode of As the World Turns with all the advertisements in between? Don't they get some sort of credit for that? I mean, because
as far as ratings?
On the internet, when someone
they
goes
get money
to watch
because
it,
there's commercials on.
Right,
but you're talking about ratings.
I'm talking about
does
money.
that count
Like, doesn't that count as revenue for the advertisers?
Yes. Well, yeah, because there's advertising. Clearly, the advertisers are paying to have their ads placed in between the acts.
So if I'm not a part of a Nielsen family, or any demographic anybody cares about, I can still support my shows by going to the main network website and sitting there and playing the shows with the advertisements. So at least my viewing will be counted.
But I don't know if CBS really counts that. They might just look at the Nielsen's. It's got
to go towards the bottom line. I mean, I think it's tiny though. So if you have 2,000 people doing that for a 15-second spot, how much money are you really getting off that versus 2 million people watching a commercial on the actual show?
Also, the other problem is with Venice, I was curious and I went to Venice's YouTube page to see how many hits it was getting. Yeah. And it had like yesterday I checked and it was 57, and today it was up to 70,000 hits, views. Yeah. But the thing is, I don't know how YouTube does that as far as what constitutes a view. So, if the diehard Italia fans are just watching the first 5 minutes so they can see Jessica Lecce and Crystal Chappelle making out half naked in bed together, if they're just watching that over and over again, does each one of those count as a separate view?
Do you know that? I don't know.
I don't know.
YouTube's always changing their rules. I don't know. I think there is, though. I don't think the same person can refresh a billion times. I think if the same person tries to do that, they actually call that video spam, or they somehow know, or they don't count it.
So I feel like there's, again, with the digital media, it's easy to, try to force, on our website for our magazine, we have reader polls and people spam those. We've tried all kinds of security measures. These fans are diehard and they are going to get their votes counted.
Well, if you want to, in most polls like that, if you want to vote for your favorite couple or your favorite actor, you just vote, clear your cache and cookies or whatever, refresh it, and it seems like you were never there, so you get to vote again.
Oh, that's how it's done.
So I don't know how, if Venice really does have that many,
never do that.
I don't know how many individual views you're talking about and how many are one person watching it 10 times.
Well, advertisers don't know that either. I think you know, the producers aren't sure how to maybe get the sponsors, and I think the sponsors are really reluctant because they don't really know. And I think even with feedback on the internet, like we've heard, you know, producers of these shows say, I don't know if it's one person with 5 names or just one person, and that, so you never know. Like, is it really 70,000 people watching, or is it 20,000?
Well, and that's the thing, that we're in such flux now. We're seeing the old model and the old way of doing business, and it is a business, let's not forget. As much as we care, as much as we're sentimental and we care, it's a business. It is a business. So we're seeing the old way of business becoming extinct, and we're seeing a lot of people floundering to find a new way to do business. Martha Byrne is looking into this new way. Crystal Chappelle is trying this new way.
Tristan Rogers is
trying this new way.
Tristan Rogers is doing something different in terms of, you know, the feedback I think a lot of people had for both Gotham and Venice was it could have been longer. You know, there was like kind of one.
If I had a dime for every.
There was one story. It seems like those shows, you got a core couple and then you're going to expand it from those 2 people. Whereas I think with Reality Bites, where they're really going to hit you with a real pilot episode where you get introduced to the stories, I think they're also trying to nail down all the sponsorship in advance versus let's put something out there and hope people will watch it. I think they're really going to have it financed before they actually produce it. So it's a different approach. But speaking of Gotham, in episode 2 on Monday night, if you guys watched it,
I did.
At the 2 minute, he didn't only see it. At the 2 minute and 13 second mark, you will see Chris Eades make an appearance in Gotham.
Are you in Gotham?
this much of me.
Oh my
No,
God!
his entire head, and it's a big head.
This shoulder, this head.
I was an extra in the
you?
party scene,
Oh.
and I was left on the
Let's see.
cutting room floor. I think,
Your
and I've
head.
watched it a couple of times.
2 minutes and 13
as
seconds.
she walks past, because she storms out of the room,
Oh my
and she
gosh.
storms right past me, and I thought, oh, they'll totally show her storming out of the room, and I'll be on camera. And they totally used a different angle as she storms. So you sort of see her walking, and I've watched it a couple times, and I'm pretty sure it's like, blink and you miss it. You can kind of see the sliver of my shoulder before they cut to the other angle.
No,
You did not tell me we had a star on the show today.
Your complete head is in there. 2 minutes and 13 seconds. I'm going to put a screenshot on this.
No,
unless it's a completely different head that I have. There's 2 Chris.
Well, you know, sometimes you get your heads confused. But,
Oh, well, what I was going to say before that distraction and tangent, this whole web soap thing, it's very interesting to me because it's kind of a new media. Like, it's a whole new medium for storytelling, and I feel like all of these new web soaps that are coming out, they're all kind of testing the waters and trying to see what works and how many characters can we, add to it. Because Crystal Chappelle announced like 30 different actors from various different shows that were going to be on Venice. You watch the first episode, you see 3.
Yeah.
So, it's like, and Martha announced a few, they appear in Gotham, and now she's announcing even more, which is good because it means she's going to do more episodes, and it seems to, obviously that's a good sign if she's like, oh, we're adding more characters, so we're going to do more episodes. But then, you say that, Reality Bites is going to be like, more of a pilot episode instead of like a little sampling, and, I feel like everyone's trying all these different approaches to see, they're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Which is interesting and I think very exciting. I mean, again, and I have to say this given the context of what we're experiencing today. In some ways, I think it's very sad for us to be watching the shows kind of die on the vine and seeing this old model that we love become extinct. On the flip side of this is that I think it's really interesting and I think exciting to be part of this new wave of the continuing stories being told in different ways. And yeah, everyone does have a different way, and some we're going to like and some we're not going to like. But I just think we're at the early days of something that's really, at some point, going to take hold.
And this has happened before.
Yeah.
Web soaps are the new radio.
When the soaps were on the radio
Definitely.
and they transitioned to TV, a lot of people said, I really don't want to watch this on TV. I
Yeah.
listen to it as I'm walking around my living room. I don't have time to like sit there and watch something on a television.
Right.
And it was very static.
And it sort of has worked for
very,
60 years on
stagey.
TV. So.
Right, and don't forget, I mean, this is why Guiding Light was both radio and TV for many of its early years, right? It was on both because...
For 4 years it was on
Right,
both.
so because people didn't, for the reasons you said,
But
people didn't
Guiding
necessarily want to
Light
make
started
that
as
adjustment.
15 minutes on the radio.
Right.
When it was 15 years old, it went to television, still 15 minutes. It stayed on radio and television for 4 years, so they were experimenting. They weren't sure what they were going to do. Guiding Light stayed 15 minutes until 1968. 31 years, it was 15 minutes long. So people thinking these shows should be 30 minutes or an hour. I mean, Guiding Light was 31 years at 15 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
no, you can tell a story. I don't know if you can really tell a solid story in a 5-minute chapter. I do feel like they should probably be about 10 to 15, but like, I don't know. I mean, as far as like creating a web soap, maybe that's too long and they think that people don't want to sit and look at their computer screens for 15 minutes. Personally, I'd rather watch a TV, but I feel like it's an adjustment to try to figure out how to tell these stories in shorter bursts like that.
I think a lot of it's
there's
budget.
just a growing period.
I don't think Martha necessarily wants to have a 5-minute show. I think she would love to have a 15-minute show, but it's just a matter of you really can't produce all of the stuff out of your own pocket forever. I think you have to do
I mean, that's the problem. You can't make a 15-minute show.
You have to
on
do
your
what
own.
you can and try to get the concept out there and hope somebody will latch onto it, because otherwise, I mean, I spent on my movie, it was all out of my own pocket, and there was only so much I could do. Like when the director wanted to go
Manhattan Nights,
when the director
available on Amazon.
When the director wanted to
And We
go
Love
film in
Soaps.
Times Square instead of filming over here, it was going to take longer. It was going to take more people. It was going to take more money, and I couldn't do it. Like, it was just, you know, it's all about money at this point. So I think they would love to. I think Martha is a great storyteller. She has the ideas, and I really hope she gets the chance to really do it longer and better and more, because between her and Lisa Brown, I know there are two people that could do it.
Okay,
Oh, geez.
so we gotta. It's been so nice meeting you, Chris, and I really
Great
hope
to
we
meet
have you
you.
back. So what are you
Sure.
gonna do now with that extra hour a week? Or do you not even want to
know.
think about it right now? Like, is there another show
honestly,
that you think you'll watch instead?
It's one of those things where it's so devastating that it hasn't even sunk in
Yeah.
yet. So I'm just sitting here going, what am I going to do in September? And I'm like, I can't even think about that. You know, I have an article that I have a feature interview with somebody I have to write for tomorrow. So, you know, I have my daily job still. We still have a magazine to put out. So
Okay. The show must go on.
I will just deal with that in September. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll just pick another soap.
And we will have you back before then. I'm going to ask you this question again. But, you know, I think we're all kind of hit with shock. I think that's for lack of a better word, a normal part of this whole grieving process. You know, denial. I think a lot of people are going to be in denial for a while, or think it's going to get picked up somewhere. I don't happen to think that. I think I'm right in the anger stage myself, because I think I'm right, like, this could have been prevented. But I think we're all going to go through this, and the great thing at We Love Soaps is we're going to keep talking about this, and hopefully do more interviews, and, you know, talk to you more about it. It's like, I think the great thing about the internet is, like, we don't, unlike another world, most of us didn't have this kind of community. Now we do have this community.
That's true.
And we rode it through with Guiding Light. We're going to ride it through with As the World Turns, and
We'll be here for each
whatever
other.
comes next. That's right. All right, well, thank you for watching, everybody. Keep checking WeLoveSoaps.net. We have some really cool interviews coming up. My interview with Tia Dion Hodges from One Life to Live is running right now. If you didn't catch it, you can see my interview with Susan Flannery. That's up there now. What do you have coming up this week? Just generally being fabulous, Roger Newcomb.
Well, the rest of my Taylor Miller interview, and
Yeah.
we're going to see her new movie, Hannah Free, on Friday.
Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, so we have a lot coming up. Keep checking WeLoveSoaps.net.